Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about assisting skills, and I'd like to welcome Mohammed, who's joined me to demonstrate some fundamental principles. As surgeons, we know when operating, a good assistant makes the operation feel smooth and regular, and a bad assistant makes it feel slow and in some cases becomes annoying. What is not often explained are the basic principles of assisting. That is what I hope we can introduce to you in the Black Belt Academy of Surgical Skills. Now, surgical assisting is a bit like dancing. Mohammed is standing opposite me at the table. Throughout the operation, his shoulders should be parallel to mine. So if I'm moving to my right, he should move to his right, and his shoulders should be parallel to mine. If I move to my left, likewise, he should move to his left. Again, his shoulders are parallel to mine. This is important throughout the process of operating, because it is important that Mohammed's hands do not come across the midline, but they stay on his side at each stage of the operation. Move to the other side, Mohammed, and his hands are on that side. Think about it. You wouldn't drive across the midline of a road, especially if it's a solid white line. And imagine a solid white line across the operation field. Secondly, and this is easier to remember, it's important that the surgeon's hands and instruments are in the inside of the operative field. This is usually defined by the retractor. The assistant's hands should be outside the retractor. In other words, never reaching in or never entering the surgical field. Do recall one of my trainers, Mr. Westerby, used to really tell you off if your hands entered the surgical field, because as a pioneer of surgery, he was often doing videos. And if the assistant's hands came in, not only would it obstruct his view, but would ruin the film. To reiterate, your shoulders are always parallel. Now place your hands, and let's do that again, and see his hands never cross the midline. Likewise, when I'm operating, my hands are within the operation field. Mohammed's hands are on the outside. This makes it very easy to operate. It means that our hands are never going to get crossed. And likewise, you should never cross your hands, and I should never cross my hands. So there's another midline in operating. That is midline down your center. If I'm reaching across to my left, I should swap my instrument to my left hand. If I'm reaching to my right, I should swap my instrument to my right. Holding with my right, holding with my left. But I never reach across the midline. It is therefore important a surgeon is able and is confident using both hands. We'll now progress to actually what this means as far as stitching is concerned. But there's one important element to add to this assisting skill, and that is how to follow a suture. To demonstrate, I'll be describing how to follow as I'm stitching this banana. Mohammed hasn't done this with me before. I don't know what level of assisting skill that he has, so this was going to be interesting, but I hope will demonstrate to you the importance of good assisting. I'm going to start, as in previous exercises, stitching our humble banana, and Mohammed is going to follow me. You'll note that I need to stitch round the circle. As already described in the previous videos, I will have to change my weight to my left foot and to my right foot depending on where I am around that banana. In doing so, Muhammad needs to actually follow me, a bit like following me dancing. I'm leading, he is following. I note you'd reached in already. If you're not familiar with assisting, don't reach in, and I'll point out the invisible signs or tells that surgeons use to indicate they're ready to assist. Okay? Some surgeons do this automatically. Very few actually tell the assistant, and sadly, some even get annoyed when the assistant doesn't understand. This is a failure of teaching as far as I'm concerned. Here we go. So I am going to start off, and we won't go into the needle or forceps handling because we've covered that already, by taking the needle through the tissue, picking it up, and I'm going to fix the suture one side using the packet. In this exercise, I'm using 3-O-Proline, and to actually fix it, I might actually just hold it with a hemostat. Now, Muhammad, I'd like you to hold the suture. Now, the important thing is that Muhammad holds it with finger and thumb, such that if I pull the suture, let go, please, Muhammad, it drops out of his hands. Would you like to hold that again, please? Because if he doesn't let go on time, hold that, please. Just hold it still, please. Hold it out. Because if he doesn't let go, keep the tension there. If it doesn't let go, and I pull it, it runs the risk of cheese wiring through the banana or through the tissue. Muhammad has automatically and instinctively held the suture at the correct length. It is at 1/3 of the total length of the suture. In other words, it enables me to effect the next stitch without any loops being in place. Now, the important thing is, in holding, I think you're squeezing too hard just because I can see the whites of your fingernails there, all right? It's a relaxing. It's a lateral hold and not a pull. The other important element of assisting is that this suture needs to be held out on the vector of 90 degrees from that circle in the direction the needle came out of the tissue. The reason for that is if it is pulled in any other direction, it potentially, again, could cheese wire the tissue. Now, I have seen this in aortic surgery, particularly when doing aortic dissections, and the tissue is wet like blotting paper. Accuracy and precision not only translates to the use of the needle, but also to the ability of the assistant to follow and hold the tissue accurately. The aorta is not forgiving, and although I describe the aorta, the same applies to whether you're stitching bowel, ureter, or any other viscera within the body. Let's have a go, shall we? So if you like to hold on a lateral hold, and I'm going to stitch around, and I'll hold the suture up at each time I'm ready for you to hold. Now, let go. And if I hold it up and pause, that is my sign to Muhammad to continue the lateral hold. He has not reached in and grabbed, and I'm going to continue around this. Let go, please. And I hold it up in the direction it needs to go, and it's held out on the vector. I am now turning my body around, and therefore it's important that Muhammad turns his body so he is actually parallel to me throughout. This way, the suture does not get crossed over, our hands do not get crossed over, and you continue to hold the suture out on the vector in which a needle comes out the tissue. and we'll continue going round. Now, what you saw there, if there's any hesitancy letting go, this banana will move on the table. And actually, an experienced surgeon, an experienced assistant, should be able to get round this banana without it actually moving or being dragged across the table. I am now on a lateral hold. Thank you, Mohammed. I'm now coming to that important stitch previously described, which is in to the shoulder of my stitching hand. That, as I've iterated, is the most difficult stitch in surgery. It is at this point that I now need to change direction. I'm going to move to my left foot, and Mohammed should automatically move to his left foot, but note that his right hand is now crossing the midline. His following, therefore, should continue now with his left hand along the same lines and same principle. So we're going to continue now backhand. And Mohammed, if you'd just like to hold the lateral hold again and let go, please. Now this becomes a lot easier as the surgeon and assistant get to know each other and understand the movement. Let go again, because in due course, I have no doubt Mohammed will be able to assist me without me having to say, let go. But if you're new to assisting a new surgeon, you won't know when to let go, because that surgeon has automatically assumed that you know how to assist. But silly, isn't it, really? And note again, as we're going round, the suture is coming into view on the screen. And well done, Mohammed. And he's automatically moved his body parallel to mine without actually asking. And let go. And I've straightened up again, Mohammed, so you move straight. Now, well done. You see that? Mohammed has now moved his assisting from his left hand and intuitively moved it to the right. And thus his hand does not cross the midline. So in a very simple lesson, and Mohammed's never assisted me before, and we have met for the first time today, I think he deserves a round of applause for picking up those principles rather quickly. The aim of that exercise was to demonstrate it is important for the assistant to move with the surgeon around the table, that their hands are therefore never reach across the midline. All of that action for a black belt in basic surgical skills should be intuitive, but it will never become intuitive unless it's been prescribed and described. I hope we've done that for you today. Thank you.
These skills definitely probably do not get taught in early stages of surgical training. They make a lot of sense, and I think I'll definitely take these lessons into theatre.
What's interesting is that the surgeon coming across a new assistant who understands these principles can only be impressed by somebody who has adopted them. Why? Because that surgeon will suddenly find that operating is that little bit more easy.
Yeah, another important thing I think at the beginning of surgical training is that you're spending most of your time assisting, and the surgical skills that you learn are sometimes not tailored towards that, I think, as opposed to learning the skills of assisting and concentrating on that, which is what you're doing initially. I think that more emphasis should be put on that, so that was really useful.
That's a very good point, actually, Mohammed. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning. Good surgeons make good assistants, and good assistants make good surgeons. It has to start with the basics. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.